So, good morning, everyone. I'm happy to see all of you here at parallel session number 2, which is challenges in widening countries. Unfortunately, our head of department, Dalla, she lost her voice, so she won't be able to moderate this session today. So I will help her out here. And my name is Dóra Fekete, and I'm the head of unit for Horizon Europe at the National Research Development and Innovation Office. And I have our panelists here with us, and I would like to ask all of you to introduce yourself briefly to the audience.
Okay, I am a basic neuroscientist working in translation neuroscience, big animals up to humans. My name is Hillier, and I am from this country.
Hello, I'm Christina Dalla. I'm working at the Medical School of Athens in Greece. I'm a professor of pharmacology. I work on basic research as well, in mostly sex differences in neuropsychopharmacology. But I also have an appointment at the hospital, so I also do some clinical collaborations. I'm here as president of the Hellenic Brain Council, that I will explain you what it is. And I'm also president of the Moderator Neuroscience Society and chair of the FENS, the Federation of European Neuroscience Society Communication Committee. And I'm very happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Pavle Andjus. I'm a professor of general physiology, biophysics, and neurophysiology in the School of Biology, Belgrade. I'm also president of the Serbian Brain Council, hopefully not in the next year. Since founding of 2015, I was the president. And I started as a basic scientist, researcher, and in the last years I'm dwelling with innovation, and I have a startup trying to implement new diagnostics device for neurodegenerative diseases.
Thank you. My name is Dinko Mitrecic. I'm coming from University of Zagreb, Croatia. I'm a medical doctor trained in brain diseases, and then I switched to translational medicine. I'm head of 2 departments at the School of Medicine in Zagreb. Also here I represent Croatian Brain Council as one of the few national councils. Actually, it's 3 of us here representing national brain councils. And I'm very happy to be today with you.
Thank you very much for this brief introduction. And our topic today, one of the topics is that the key factor in competitiveness is mobilizing talent all over Europe. Yet still we see that some great minds in the widening countries are not that visible to participate in Horizon Europe calls. As I know, you also prepared with some presentations to share your experience with this visibility and widening countries' participation. So I would like to ask you to please present your experiences.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's here. Okay, so I just want first to introduce you to the Hellenic Brain Council. These are the national brain councils that they were formed in a way in affiliation. We were motivated by the European Brain Council to form this. It was not easy. So you can see that in Greece there are 15 scientific societies, and they're all the societies that they work on the brain. It was an initiative from the Hellenic Society for Neuroscience, which I'm the past president. But now we also have the clinicians, we have the neurology society, psychologists, psychiatrists, children's psychiatrists. And also we are proud to have the patient groups and caregivers associations. Also EPION is one Greek carers network that is very active also in Europe. And as you can see others, I will go a bit fast. And the aims of this council, most of the national brain councils have these aims. It's to promote, of course, research, basic and clinical research, but also to bring awareness and participate in consultation and policy making and advocacy, and of course to educate all stakeholders. So it's very important for us to be here at this meeting. We have participated in many different activities. Most of them are not research related. They're mostly about advocacy, but also we have participated in Erasmus Plus programs as a Hellenic Brain Council. Of course, many of our members are, I will show you later, are members of many big consortiums and research activities. And also, this is from one Erasmus Plus program, the Share for Brain, it was for science communication, and another one on the ADHD. Also, we are founding members of the European Brain Data Hub, which is a new organization in Europe, and there are also other brain councils that they are involved in this, and the idea is to use the health data that we have from Europe for research, and also some patient groups are also involved in this, and different countries in Europe. It's a big project, not very easy because it has also a lot of personal data and all of these things that we need to consider, but it's an ambitious and very interesting initiative. We have also participated in different events with the European Brain Council, also this one at the European Parliament. And recently, we also contributed to the No Health Without Brain Health campaign, and we contacted also the Greek MEPs for that. And of course, in Greece, we participate in different activities of our member societies, also the patient groups, we give the auspices, and we also participate. And also this year, I think this is very much indicative of the research that is happening in Greece about neuroscience and basic neuroscience, because this next year we have two conferences in Greece, and you are all welcome to attend. We'll have the European Society of Neuroscience in collaboration with the Hellenic Society for Neuroscience at Naxos in May, and then in June we have the Mediterranean Neuroscience Society Conference that is alternating in different countries of the Mediterranean area. It's a very interesting society because it's not only South Europe, but it's also North Africa that is participating. So last time we had a conference at Carthage in Tunis, also Morocco, and it's very interesting to interact with these researchers. And if we want to talk about widening projects, I think it's important also to bring these countries also. And of course, we have the support from International Brain Research Organization and the funds for these activities. So in Greece, in general, there is a very high research and innovation potential. There are many efforts. After the financial crisis, things are much better. They have improved. There are national grants, national calls, especially, I think we're missing some words there from the slides, but anyway, there is the Hellenic Foundation for Research and Innovation nowadays with European funding, but they fund national grants, which is very helpful. I have a grant from this foundation as well. Also, there are many researchers that they have not many, but there are a few researchers that have European Research Council funding, of course, Horizon Europe. They are very competitive, but we're really trying. We are members of many applications, and even researchers that they have national funding from the United States National Institute of Health. And of course, my university is part in probably around 20 or 30 Marie Curie, but in all disciplines, not only in neuroscience or brain, Marie Curie actions for the doctoral networks that they have PhD students. And that was also very important for me because I had the Marie Curie Fellowship to have a postdoc at the United States, and then there was funding for me to return to Greece. And in a way, that's my personal story, that I had the initiative, the motivation to come back to Greece. And then I got a faculty job, because that's the challenges also that we face in Greece and in other countries, that many times people go abroad to study and do their postdocs and PhDs, which is very good for science, all this mobility, but then there are not faculty jobs to return back. So I got a faculty job in 2009, and probably I was the last one for around 10 years. And then the next jobs opened in 2019, and you can imagine how competitive these are. Of course, as we will talk later, there is also some lack of some organization. We don't have our universities and institutes do not have the organization that they have in other countries, but they are really trying to improve. There is some bureaucracy, and the other problem is that the funding is not, it's fragmented, so we don't even know where the next call is going to be. I don't know if it's the same here, but this is what the researchers are always complaining, that, okay, we apply for a grant now, and if we don't get it, is there going to be another call next year for the national grants? So we don't really know, like in other countries, that there are calls in specific times, and that's very disturbing for us. And I don't know if we have time, but there is also a very good example of an international master programs that we participate in neuroscience. Maybe you can see only the beginning of that. We have the time to see. It's a video. It's an international neuroscience program. It's in Greece, but it's also in collaboration with NENS. Okay. Okay, the rest of it is about Athens and how beautiful it is. But anyway, I think you got the idea that it's an English program, so anybody can attend. And also it's part of NENS. This is a network of educational programs at FENS for different European universities. And also we're trying to connect also with other Mediterranean countries. So I think that having programs in English, and with we can also have professors from different universities. I think that's very important for having a critical mass of neuroscientists. So that's all. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the
Thank you very much for presenting the situation in Greece. And now I would like to give the floor to Dr. Daniel Hillier.
All right, so I think a bit to reflect what Christina mentioned, and we would very much like to make this interactive, so we compiled a little feedback poll. If you have your cell phone or computer open, you can open this URL, and a few questions on what you think of widening, or what measures could be used to improve the participation of widening countries in European science initiatives or science in general. Definitely. So I think online people do see this and they can join, and I hope we can collect some responses in the end, maybe look at one or two of the questions, the proportion of opinions collected. until you do that, I move on. And so I would add here a personal perspective of widening. I started international science pretty early during my master's, starting first in French Belgium, learning to use fMRI and doing a little fMRI project, and then through UK, and then through my PhD in the Flemish Belgium, and then my postdoc in Switzerland. So I spent quite a long time in different European countries, and I think I could collect a relatively deep understanding of each local system. Then as a PI, I was accepted to a French research institute, which sadly I had to decline because even if the conditions were great, my family said, it's a too high barrier to learn French for us. So it's, I think, something to be considered, or maybe even an important factor when we consider mobility, the language barrier. Then I also spent as a PI in Germany, and finally here I am in Hungary, in a widening country. And I do see the potential in connecting, newer, maybe more dynamic countries to more established, maybe we can say sometimes more in-depth schools of science. The potential is there. The question, how we can maximize that. So thank you very much. That was a brief introduction from myself, and I am looking forward to discuss these questions and giving over to Pavle or Pavle. Pavle, yeah? Yes?
Thank you, Daniel, very much. Yes, I have similar experience as Daniel. I also from Croatia moved Switzerland, Sweden, then spent a few years in Belgium, UK, US, Singapore for 6 months, and then I, let's say, returned to Croatia. I will just steer our discussion a little bit with a few slides. So Croatia is dramatically increasing investment in research. So if you look 8 years ago, there was around 0.8 investment. This is of GDP, yes, and now it's 0.5. So it doubled in approximately 6 years. I think it's the largest increase in European Union, but still Croatia challenges some major problems like insufficient investment in research development. So you know that European Union wants to, it's asking you over the last 10 years how much your research will contribute to European economy. This is still underdeveloped in Croatia. Still a lot of research is on basic level. So we appreciate high citation publications. But now European is not anymore satisfied. Already for a few years is not anymore satisfied only with that, but it wants you to contribute to development of industry, and this started to change in Croatia last few years. We, for example, currently I'm leading a project 1.5 million euros and another 0.7, so more than 2 million euros, which is primarily for collaboration of my university, Zagreb University School of Medicine, and industry. So we have a lot of money also for industry to work with us. Another problem is fragmentation. Both of you mentioned this fragmentation, so we also don't know exactly who is doing what and when next call will be. And this is already, I actually partially mentioned with industry research. As Christina mentioned, we are here, 3 of us are members of national, actually representing national brain councils and working in tight collaboration with European Brain Council. Fred is sitting there, you met him already yesterday and today. And also there is this Data Governance Act. I don't know how many of you know it, but all national parliaments had to confirm it in their parliaments, or it's in the process of confirmation. In Croatia, it's just confirmed, I think a few weeks ago. And we are all invited to share data. So we all produce a lot of data, and this data should be shared among European countries, and this is where widening countries can contribute. And I want to finish my presentation with a few very intriguing slides. I don't know how many of you are from widening countries, but this is very interesting. So if you look investments of widening countries in comparison to, let's call them big countries, Western countries like Belgium, Sweden, Germany, France, and so on. So still we are lagging behind. Although we are increasing our investments. So if you look increase of Greece or Poland or Croatia, it's quite dramatic. It's more than double, Greece and Croatia, for example. But still, we are much weaker than these countries, but we are going in good direction. Another interesting point now, how much you get scientific publication per scientist per year. When you normalize this to number of scientists, now picture is changing. Look where is, for example, France, Germany, United States, even Austria, and where is Slovenia, Latvia, Croatia, Romania. We are more efficient, not dramatically, but we are efficient. But look at the next slide. Number of citations. So maybe number of publications is not so important, but number of citations per year. We are even more better. Croatia has 3 citations per scientist per year, and for example, France and Germany has less than 2. This is interesting. And now, most dramatic slide. Look at this. Number of citations per invested €1 million per year. Widening countries are far the best. Much better than Germany, France, Israel, United States. And I understand this. For Croatia, I can explain why is that so. Because in Croatia, 20 years ago, we are lagging dramatically behind. When I worked in Belgium or Switzerland, I was shocked what they have. Now we have all of that, but in much smaller quantities. And scientists who work in this brain research in Croatia are really the best of the best. They are really highly selected. And we are used to save our money. So if you invest €1 million in countries like Croatia, Greece, Romania, Lithuania, Portugal, Slovenia, you will get much more than if you invest like Germany, Belgium, or France. So my message is, so I have a few points to discuss on. So widening countries are 2 to 3 times more efficient in return upon investment. This is an interesting message for the European Commission, and it's already known. So it is good to invest in widening countries. Selection of the top scientists in widening countries is probably better than in West countries. So West countries, they are used to have a lot of money, so this selection is not so strict. So I think we should work on even more intense partnership between widening countries and Western countries, and it should be going in both directions. Because both groups, let's say, both groups of countries can learn from each other. So this is one of the points I would like to raise here, among many others. Thank you very much.
Okay, I don't have any slides. Although I did ask my ministry to send me some slides, and they did send me, but I will not show it to you. I will just give you a story that is actually based on some of my experience in the field of fighting for existence in science in an emerging country. Now it's called widening country. So I was the first coordinator in Serbia of a biomedical EU project in 2005, meaning that there were not much applicants at that time. I entered into this field of fighting for the EU funds, which we are actually quite lucky because, interestingly, we are not an EU country, but you may know that many countries like Serbia are so-called associated countries. It started somewhere around 2000. We got into the field, which gave us a great opportunity, but of course, it's a gladiator ring where you have to fight with strong guys, like mentioned before. So we were hardened during this process, in a way, trying to fight. I remember the times when, well, first of all, I got into this by also going around collaborating, being invited. I had a little bit a dull career regarding mobility. I went twice to Italy, not just because it's a nice country, but because it was a really great opportunity. I worked first in Trieste, where probably many of you know that it's practically a science town, a small one, but full of science, especially neuroscience and biophysics. And then in the 2000s, that was in the 90s, and in 2000 I worked in the University of Turin, where there is also famous Institute of Neuroscience. And there I applied with my colleagues my first experience with the EU grant. When I came back to Belgrade, I said, well, there's this occasion to apply. We were at the FP5 program, and we got only one or maybe two possible calls for Serbia, and we went to fight for that two calls. We did a great job writing the grant, and we didn't get it. So some of my colleagues says, oh, never again, we'll never again apply for this kind of grants. So we did such a great job writing this and connecting people. We went to, this was about post-traumatic syndrome after the wars. That was the topic we had to study. So we went to Bosnia, we connected with hospitals there. Then we had partners in Oxford, in Turin. But we didn't get it. So many of my colleagues said, no, we will never do this again, because we were used to write these national grants, which are not so competitive. You write it nicely and you get it, but you don't get much money. So now it's a completely different story. This actually graphs that statistics I got from my ministry show something very similar to what Dinko had just shown, but it was just specific for the widening programs, and specifically for the twinning calls, which are one of the most widening calls. And Serbia is actually one of the countries that is applying the most of all the widening countries. And interestingly, in this graph, the countries that have much more applications are not widening countries like Switzerland, France, or so, but Serbia is next to them. And then when the outcome of the grants is also counted, we are also one of the best of the widening countries. Slovenia is better. We are next to Greece. And Croatia is also there. So we are trained really to fight to get these grants, which means we need them. It's a very good program. We respond well to this, and this is a way how we should go further. So to conclude, and that's my motto from a long time ago. I come from a coastal part of Montenegro, where the fishermen say the fisherman can catch only if he throws. The more he throws the net, he will get the fish. So we have to apply and apply and apply, and that's the only way. Of course, if we get more fish in the sea to catch, then it's better. But the trick is to be stubborn and to apply. Of course, it's not easy to do it yourself, so that's one of the issues also. Hurdles that we have to fight is how to catch the right fish, and then how to manage your dish with this fish, how to manage your project. These are problems that we face. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this insightful information from all of you. And now I believe that we have some responses for the poll from Dr. Hillier. And we will just quickly.
So what I would suggest is to put the link. So we have 8 responses, which are very interesting. If some of you still want to contribute, that would be great. And then
okay, then at the end of the session, we will see the responses.
Do you have it after mine?
what?
That's my presentation. After this, right? It's after this.
After this.
Okay.
Somebody have not filled it yet. I think it's super useful and very interesting what we got already, and then we will get back.
So yes, thank you very much. And now, based on your presentations, I have a few questions for you. First of all, I would like to ask Professor Dalla that you mentioned some challenges for the researchers, for example, the lack of faculty jobs. And I was wondering if you could say something about challenges for other stakeholders maybe, so for not only for researchers, but let's say, for participants from the industry or other stakeholder groups?
For conducting research. For research. Yes, the problem is many times the bureaucracy. So because there were some grants last year, and I think they will happen again, for collaboration between the academia and the industry, and this is something that they really invest, our government invested in that. But many companies sometimes cannot participate because the bureaucracy is so much that they cannot, the administrative work anyway. Maybe sometimes they don't have all the appropriate documentation, or so only big companies can do it. And then they are also limited in other, sometimes they don't, big companies like the big pharma does not have R&D in Greece. So we only have national pharmaceutical companies that they really can participate. And of course, I think the patient groups and the caregivers are very active and very eager to contribute, but not so much in research. They don't have this education or this training. So they're mostly about awareness and advocacy. They're very good in that. But there is no training for them to, or even for us to include them in research projects so far. I think these are the only initiatives that they really include them. So we really need to do better.
Indeed. I believe that other countries have similar challenges, so to say. But also, I was wondering, and maybe Dr. Hillier, with your very international experience, you could share some thoughts on why do you think the widening country participation is less visible in European research projects, including these stakeholder groups, maybe?
I have a clear answer here. I don't know if some people who will hear it would like it. I am really sorry to say that. My insight that the experiments and projects we can run in my lab are because I have been for so long all across Europe. So I know people, we had joint projects, and the visibility and trust, I think, means a open door to consortia. And I think it's much harder without being there for 1, 2, 3, 4. In my case, it was much longer time. So I think the key word here is trust. So trust by personal connections. In a similar way, going to competitive conferences like Gordon conferences, which are expensive, but those are also excellent way of staying in the front line of research and meeting other people who also really want to lead competitive projects.
Thank you very much. And as just not to discuss the challenges, but also some potential solutions or some let's say some ideas on how to increase the visibility of the widening regions. I would like to ask President Mitrecic whether you have some ideas on that.
So how to increase visibility? Yes. Well, I think it's probably becoming easier and easier because if you just compare 20 years ago, maybe internet was just started to take a kick, and databases were still mixed. I remember me as a student, I started to first read from paper magazines, and now I haven't seen paper magazine for more than 10 years, I think. And we had this COVID crisis, but with COVID crisis, good outcome was that we started to be used on these Zooms and all this. So what I want to say, now it's Europe is general small, and everything is near. If you live in Zagreb, you're only a few hours drive to Budapest or to Vienna, then to Slovakia, even Poland is not far away. If you drive whole day, you can reach even Belgium by car. And of course, it's 1 hour or 1.5 by airplane, and you have all these digital tools. So we have several projects now bilateral. We have now bilateral with Czech Republic and with Austria. We applied also for Sweden, and many things you can do online. You can talk a lot online and exchange many things. There are also these big facilities now in every country. You can do sequencing, and you have mouse facilities. You have MRI. So now it's easier to collaborate than it was 20 years ago. So I think you can fight for your visibility easier. I fully agree with Daniel, fully agree that you need to have some personal contacts. So always my advice to my PhD students who they are coming out or just came out from our laboratory, I will say, now you need to go abroad. So if you will stay forever in one country, whatever country it is, it could be Switzerland or States, it's not good. You need to go abroad to change your mindset. And this helps a lot because you change your way of thinking, it's new country, new food, new friendships, everything is different. And then you make new contacts, and then you broad yourself, your mind is broadened. So this is very important. And then if you come back to your country, which is often the case, then you can use this experience practically for whole your life to bring these connections and to invite these speakers, to have bilateral projects. So I think it's something what you need to fight for, but it's definitely possible. And again, I think that's easier than it was before. Differences are not so big anymore. So I will again say, in Zagreb, you can find any piece of equipment like in London or Zurich, any. We have everything. Of course, in much smaller quantities, and much less groups are using them, but you can find. So if you want to do some high-end level science, you can do it anywhere. I'm sure you can do it in Budapest, you can do it in Romania, you can do it in Sofia. You just need to have a courage to use them.
Thank you very much, and I can see that some comments. Yes, please.
Yes, of course, I completely agree that the mobility is important. Maybe I don't agree so much about using internet and Zoom connections. This is, of course, important as a starting point. But there were some, and still are, there are programs which are widening programs like the cost actions that are often, that there is a mixed view of these programs. Some call them science touristic agencies because there's so much mobility, it looks like you're really visiting nice places. But on the other hand, it helped me. Actually, I think we just discussed it a couple of days ago. We met at the cost action. Which doesn't mean that we know what we like to drink and eat, but what is his science and what's my science, and we discussed this, and out of that came some collaborations. This is the widest European program regarding networking. And it's exactly what I said. It's throwing the net, and you have a lot of fish out there, and you may catch some very interesting partners through that. And I also, my teams usually had a number of 10 people or so, PhD, master students. All of them went then to mostly the same places I went. I made these bridges for them, and all of them went like two or three times to visit some labs. It was from 3 months to 1 year. All of them got some experience, and then some, of course, went away also, which sometimes is good, but sometimes not so much because it becomes the brain drain. It's an uncontrollable thing. That's what's not good. It would be very nice. It's, of course, often controllable. You arrange it. You're prepared for that. Sometimes it just happens, and you have to, find some substitutes and how to cope with this. This is not good. And another thing which I was just thinking about, really rarely happened. For example, I have a national grant where there's a nice idea how you can actually invite also foreign collaborators, so-called external collaborators. And there's funds for them only to travel to Serbia. And it's not stimulating enough. Although they're my friends and colleagues, it's always very hard to bring them to my lab. And I'm talking not just to come to give a nice talk, which is always, of course, good, but also to stay in the lab and teach the hands-on things. And I have really a network of very capable experts around, and I have great problems. Almost it's impossible to keep them in my lab longer than a week. While I personally and my students, we can stay longer. We have the funds for that, and I cannot fund them. Even if I have a European grant, I had recently, it was this Marie Curie grant, where you have nice funds, well, relatively nice, but for Serbia, 2,000 a month is nice. Not for Paris, but I also had to send people to Paris for 2,000 a month. But for Serbia, 2,000 a month is quite sufficient. Still, it was very hard to get some people coming from countries like France or Italy, but I had nice collaboration from Turkey. These guys really came, stayed, and taught my students some nice techniques. But generally, this is a problem. It's hard to bring these people. It's easy to go there, but it's hard to bring them efficiently to a widening country.
Just very fast, I would like to add to that one solution is to try to have more diversity and inclusivity and equity. And about the big conference also that Daniel mentioned, and I'm also organizing many different conferences. I think it's very important to invite people from widening countries or from all over the world and really to think about diversity. And this is also very good also for these EU funding programs that for the cost actions and the others, that they motivate the big labs and the big names to include us. I know it might not feel very nice or very good, but I don't mind because I think it's good if when they include us and when they collaborate with us, then they see that we can do the job very well and we are very effective, as it was mentioned. So then it just needs to have the motivation to have more inclusivity and diversity in all levels, not just country, also gender, disabilities, everything. There is also the ALBA initiative from FENS. Everyone can find that online and become a member for free. And I think it's really helping on this globally, the respect.
Thank you very much. That actually led to my next question. You mentioned several initiatives here and several opportunities for widening country researchers to participate in European collaborations. And now, what is your opinion about the co-funded partnerships? For example, in the health sector, we have quite a lot of co-funded partnerships in personalized medicine, and now we are preparing the partnership in brain health as well. Do these co-funded partnerships help for widening country researchers to participate in EU projects? Are they inclusive enough, or how should they be designed to be more inclusive? And whoever feels like.
So, yeah, this is a tricky question. Yeah, I mean, idea about this partnership, co-funded partnership, is great. And for example, I'm also national representative in JPND, and I know it for, I think, 12 years since start of JPND. I just talked to Professor Amuyel also about future and this new confound which is just coming on the horizon. Sometimes so now we're coming to some problems, maybe specific problems of specific countries. So Croatia is rather small and has limited amount of budget for its own investments. So sometimes national ministries take a lot of time to decide whether they want to join or not. and it's driving us crazy because scientists, we know that it would be useful, but they need several rounds of consultations and it takes a lot of time. So Croatia is member of some joint programs and investing some money, and in many of them not. Of course, there is always option that you can be just associated member without invested money, so you can be present and you can get some secondary benefits from that. And this is what I would personally like to change in my country, that we respond faster. So this is...
Yeah, this is really interesting, and it opens to me a possibility to mention EBC, because Fred is there, probably he wants to hear a little bit about EBC and the National Brain Councils. I'll tell you now publicly why I entered into this to open to establish a Serbian Brain Council, because I actually wanted to firstly influence my Ministry of Science. At that time we had only Ministry of Science that was funding science. Now luckily we have the Foundation for Science and Foundation for Innovation, plus the Ministry of Science that is mostly for international collaborations. At that time Ministry of Science was funding everything. And there was no neuroscience. So my idea was actually to convince them, and I still think that in Serbia we do have very strong neuroscience. We have several centers compared to other fields of, let's say, biology or biomedicine. And we wanted to convince our ministry that they should support this in this co-funded programs like JPND or ERA Neuron. Or, note, we are not an EU country, as I said. In fact, I think we are one of very few countries in the European Brain Council that are not from EU. But still, we are extremely well accepted and heard in the Brain Council. And I have to tell you that our contributions in the end turned to be much more efficient in Brussels than in my own country. The response was really depressive, I have to tell you. We never managed to put neuroscience on an agenda. And our only success was organizing, it's not of course negligible, brain awareness weeks and outreach to the people, general public, but not to the stakeholders, not to the ministry. They know of us, of course, and okay, I have to admit they're supporting our membership in the European Brain Council, but that's the maximum we got. So it's really hard work to convince them to do this separate funding, because they then say, well, but then we'll have the particle physicists, or I don't know, the cancer research people. They would say, oh, come on, this is also important. Why are you supporting neuroscience? So we have a rather grayish zone there, who is going to be funded. So it's usually bottom up.
I would like to add my experience. In general, I really like the initiative. We were part in a Neuron Aeronet grant. Especially the partner from Widening country, Romania, was absolutely amazing. But the downside was the speed. So the day I submitted the application and we got the money was 1.5 years. And it's extremely hard to stay competitive in, with these timescales with US or China.
Thank you very much.
This is the problem, the time, and also as mentioned, the memberships, because our country many times does not pay for these memberships for HUN-REN Neuron or for GPND. Maybe they invest in other things, but it's difficult to convince them.
Thank you very much. As our time is coming to an end, we would also like to share the results of the poll and maybe even some questions from the audience. We will see how we go with the time.
Do you want to start with questions until?
So what?
Maybe we can start with questions until you are ready.
Or actually, yeah, maybe everybody sees the poll, so I can just highlight a few. So first of all, we got 10 responses, which is very, very helpful. Half of those responses are from scientists and the rest is from patient representative or companies or agencies. It's small but very, very interesting. Sorry, what? It is, yes, yeah, I think so. So there are some obvious ones, like the Erasmus and Marie Curie programs should prioritize mobility between widening and cold countries. There is a 90% agree or strongly agree with that. So how to, I think it's a super important topic of how we evaluate the success of programs, both on the scientific and on the economic scale. And so one question was, the number of papers published in an institute or a country is a good measure to compare effectiveness of funding. And here only 20% did agree and the rest did disagree or strongly disagree. So I think this tells us that we may need more sophisticated approaches. There was a question referring to what you said, Christina, about tenure and you know, how to keep people for a longer time. Yeah, it was before. Let me just. Yes, so tenured positions with established quality assurance frameworks will promote quality of science in widening countries. Here, 90% agree or strongly agree. And the last three questions, curiously, so how do we assess if a widening measure is efficient or not? And one question was, you know, alluding to voluntary or involuntary brain drain, that widening is good to let people from widening countries migrate to core countries. Here, 90% disagreed, meaning that that is not the aim of widening. The second option was, let's keep it simple first, so postdocs returning to their home country. I think this is interesting and maybe worth looking later because this was very mixed. So there is some agreement because I think this is the general practice, which I mean doesn't work so well, but it does work, that us four returned to their home countries, but there are other responses. And maybe I conclude here with the, maybe it's a vision which is difficult to achieve. But so taking the US as an example, where you know, imagine you are in California and then you want to go to Texas or East Coast. I think it's pretty standard that scientists, PIs, hop around in the country and maintain an exchange and a dynamic network. And in Europe, it's much more difficult. I think mostly because of the language barrier and the fragmentation of national frameworks, legislation, and so on. So there was a question of the effectiveness of widening measures can be assessed by the frequency with which PhD graduates from widening countries choose labs in other widening countries. And here the responses are mixed. So there is like 44% agree and the rest disagree. My assumption here is because it's such a high bar looking from today. Yeah. So thank you so much for your responses. I think it's really helpful, and maybe we will have opportunities to dig deeper.
Thank you very much. Well, of course, 10 responses couldn't be called a representative sample, but still, thank you very much for this valuable input from all of you. And now I think we have time for maybe one question, and the other questions can come during the lunchtime to our presenters.
Thank you. Thank you all for the great discussion. I would just like to bring 2 points. The first one is regarding the analysis that that Dinko did, the last slide, that I think it hides a really big problem in the widening countries, which is the low salaries. Because I'm assuming that most of that investment is in HR, in personal costs. And maybe the reason why we have more, the return of the investment is higher in widening countries, as Portugal. I'm Portuguese, so I know what happens is the low salaries, and that's probably because with the 1 million you can do more investment in people. In the widening countries, and I think this is a problem that's eventually these statistics hides, and that we should be fighting, and that the widening program should also be tackling. And this brings me to my second point, which is something that I miss in the widening program, and if the aim is exactly to decrease the gap between the widening countries and the more advanced ones, is the collaboration with the industry, and this is something that we totally see in the more developed countries that they have good partnerships with pharma companies, with other industries, and even with startups. And I think this is something that is missing in the widening program. It's more. It's actually, you can see some calls funding this with the excellence hubs, trying to bring other type of stakeholders to the widening program. But I think this is something that is missing in the program, and that should be, if we want to be very innovative, as is Switzerland and the US, we need to bring other stakeholders to the stage and to promote a more interactive ecosystem. And, yeah.
Thanks for raising this. I totally share your view in terms of not everybody has to stay in science. So I think having a PhD is a decision point of going postdoc and giving a chance for academia or going for industry. And in the Leibniz network in Germany, I saw a very good practice, is that they train young and also PIs for this reality, and they offer I think 1 million euro for 3 years for startups. Which is relatively, low-hanging. There is a selection, but no administration. They provide support, so alumni come back and tell how they managed with that 1 million. And by that, to me, it looked like an attractive and feasible path forward. And I think this path forward to industry is, either you go as a salary, but as a startup, I think it's generally acknowledged that it's quite difficult in Europe. I suppose it should not be so difficult. At least the Leibniz example for me was a very good one, that it's feasible.
Can I do it, or do you want? Well, just to connect to what you said about startups, just to mention that in Serbia there is a real craze about startups, which is quite positive. There is, let's say, a cluster of people that are gathering around, well, not just neuroscience, but health. A lot of young people who are trying. We have, I just mentioned, the Foundation for Innovation. Funding, we do have also EU funds that are helping this. But it's a little bit chaotic, but anyway, it's a prebiotic bouillon from which some startups is coming out. I was even stimulated, as an old fart to say, with this, and then I just mentioned I opened this startup in Croatia. Interestingly, because through this we were actually catapulted to other accelerator programs where we met other people, and I met a very proactive Croatian CEO. He's now CEO of this startup, and we opened this. But it's just the start, and I think it's a good road. And also, of course, the widening programs, like well, it's not a really widening program, Marie Curie Action, but they are stimulating you to have SMEs inside. The question is, how intense is the collaboration? So, I mean, vice versa. So sometimes they just take some of your knowledge and they don't give much to you. This is a problem with industry in general, so it's also should be a control thing. But this is definitely something we are lacking, and but hopefully we're on the right track. And we're aware of that very much. What you said, it's a very important thing.
Yes, and regarding this, so this is big topic, and we now need to go for lunch. But yeah, there was yesterday amazingly shocking slide. So out of 50 largest companies which came out from startups, only 5 or 4 are in Europe. Only 4 out of 50 biggest. And if you look amount of venture capitalism in the world, you know how much percentage is Europe of the world? I think 5% of the world. It's shocking. So Singapore is much stronger than whole Europe. It's just one or other small city. So it's shocking. So Europe is very bad in that, and Canada is much better. And we have common friend from Canada. She was just in Vienna and Budapest. She said people are so slow here compared to Canada. Europeans, and she was in Vienna and Budapest, 2 big and great cities of Europe. But yeah, we can continue at lunch. Okay.
Thank you very much for your very interesting points. Myself, as a representative of a funding agency, I also had some interesting food for thought from this panel. I would like to thank you very much for your contribution in the poll and for your interesting question raised. And thank you very much for our panelists. And yes, let's continue this very interesting discussion during lunchtime. Thank you very much for being here with us today.